Welcome to Local Voices. I'm Rachel Steele, and with me today is Dr. Dee Woodward, an educator and Fayette resident. Thank you so much for being here, Dee.
Thank you for asking me.
Now, as you know, August is National Native American History Month, and today we're going to talk about your experience working for the Navajo Nation. Now, as I understand it, you worked at a school for the residents of the Navajo Nation. How many years did you serve there?
20 years.
That is a long time.
It was.
Now, approximately what time span did you serve there? 1990s, 1980s? When did you start?
On May 20th, 1990, I first went to the Navajo Nation at the invitation of Dr. Glenn Anderson to give a workshop for teachers on teaching reading. The day was magnificent, and I really enjoyed the opportunity, as well as the $1,000 per day stipend.
Wow.
At the end of the day, the principal said that she had an opening for employment and would I please consider applying. She cautioned me that it would be Navajo preference, but she thought I would be just what they wanted and were searching for. I filled out the application and left the reservation, returning home to Springfield, Missouri, where I had just retired from Drury University and was looking forward to a life of recreation and leisure. Later that summer, I got a call from Marie at Chinley Boarding School saying that I was hired and could I please report to work on Monday?
So you had to go from Springfield to the school in a couple days.
Right. Fortunately, my daughter Gina was called into action and I was able to be there. It was the beginning of my big adventure. I honestly intended to stay just a short time and return to Missouri and to my life of recreation and leisure and travel. Well, that didn't happen until 2009. While there, the Navajos constantly checked to see if I was all right, having a good time, if housing was all right, and so forth. Fortunately, we had a whole bunch of employees from Missouri, and we would get together every day after school and walk the canyon, that is Canyon de Chelly, of course. Have dinner at the Thunderbird cafeteria, talk, laugh, enjoy until it was time to return to quarters and repeat the routine every day.
Okay, now, was the school you were at on the Navajo Nation's land in Oklahoma?
Not in Oklahoma.
Not in Oklahoma. Arizona.
Yes.
Okay.
And I have some information here about it. The Navajo Nation is part of 4 states: Arizona, Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico. There are approximately 250,000 Navajos on the reservation. It is served by a president and a cabinet. Window Rock, Arizona is the capital city. Tourism is appreciated. Open range for livestock, so watch where you drive. Agriculture is important, as is silversmithing, jewelry making, leather work, and art of every kind. You will be warmly welcomed on the Navajo Nation reservation. Come often and stay as long as you can.
Now, were you housed on Navajo Nation land?
I was.
How were the accommodations?
They were magnificent.
Really?
Very, very good. And also, we did not have to pay for our housing, nor our food, nor much of anything. I think we paid for the telephone.
Okay. Now, did the people, the Navajo people, how did they live? Because I have been to several websites saying that present day on the Navajo Nation, they don't have water, they don't have phones, they don't have electricity, they don't have any means to build a water plant or a power plant because there is some corruption within the Navajo government. Did you experience that when you were there?
Not at all.
Okay.
They have beautiful roads, they have beautiful buildings, they have beautiful homes, they have nice places to live, they speak English, they're well traveled, they're well read, they are living the life of Riley, quite frankly.
That's wonderful, because that's not what I read on the internet, on some sites, not on the main Navajo Nation site. But there was one site that I went to where there was a whole thread where people were complaining about the housing and not having water. Just to switch. Now, I know how you got the job. What inspired you to actually go to this school? Because, I mean, you were really settled in Springfield. You were going to do your thing. You were going to travel. Did you feel a calling to go?
Not necessarily. I felt a friendship from Dr. Glenn Anderson, who was a longtime friend, and he was a grant writer there, and he was able to bring in lots of money. This was when Bill Clinton was president, and the money was flowing from D.C. to the reservation. And I do want to tell you, there were approximately 3,000 students in the school, and it was quite interesting to watch their progress. Dr. Anderson was able to secure large grants for the school. For instance, he was able to find the money to give every student a laptop. These laptops were handed out with much training for teachers and students. There were individual contracts with them stating that students would have to meet important requirements such as taking care of the laptops, taking care of themselves, maintaining perfect attendance, and never violating any behavioral rules.
So,
once a rule was broken, a child would lose his or her laptop and would never get it back.
now, were there teachers for different subjects? Or was this kind of like a one-room schoolhouse where everybody piled in and had one teacher to teach them
No.
and from K through 12?
The buildings were very big. They were very beautiful. There were large classrooms. Nobody was crowded. Plenty of electricity. Plenty of pickup trucks in the driveway. Plenty of people. It was a very modern place.
Now, class attendance, was it mandatory as it is in...
Absolutely.
So it wasn't at the will of the student or the family?
No way.
Okay. And what did you do while you were there
I
at
was
the Navajo
the
school?
middle school principal. And I went there with an attitude, and I will share that attitude. My attitude was that I was just there for the day, right? $1,000 a day. And so when I got tired or someone didn't like what I was doing, I was coming back home, all right? So I was very bold. I would tell these children they dare not miss a minute of school. They had to be there on time, and they had to come early, stay late. And I worked with the parents. I told them what to do. They're very simple people, but they do what you tell them to do. And so they would participate in spelling bees. They would help their children learn the words backwards and forwards. They would excel. They're very athletic, and so they can run these races like no one else can. They're also very artistic. If you give a child a pencil and a paper, they can spend the whole day, the whole week, the whole month, the whole year on making some artistic specimen that is very, very good. So they have a sense, I believe it's a hereditary, that they know, they have a sense of dimension, they have a sense of
Spatial
space.
relation.
Space.
Yes.
That's right.
That's part actually of an IQ test.
It is.
If
It
you
is.
have spatial relation, And it sounds like these people have inherited that spatial relation.
And they're very proud of their artistic endeavors, very proud of their athletic endeavors. And they, by being Native Americans, can go to any college or university in the world that they want to go to. They are accepted. You and I may not be accepted, but they are very accepted and very encouraged to go there.
I have a question for you. Did many people speak the native language of Navajo? And did they have teachers or elders that taught the Navajo language and traditions to the next generation?
That would happen mostly in the churches, in the local churches, maybe at the local city hall or something. But in the school, everything was English and only English was used. And they were eager to have people who would help them improve their English, their writing skills, their reading skills, their speaking skills, their memorization skills, their typing skills, all the skills that we treasure, they treasure. And they needed a lot of practice. And so we were there to help them. In one instance, a high school senior came to me and asked me if I would tutor her after school. And I said, well, yes, of course, because I couldn't leave the building until 5 o'clock anyway. And so she came, and we read together. We sat together, and we read together. And it turned out that she became valedictorian of the senior class.
What motivation.
Just one little bit of help, and they can do so much. And that's the point I want to get across to everyone about the Navajo Nation and about the Native Americans. They really are wonderful, wonderful people. And they don't live in that kind of an environment that holds them back at all. The air is fresh, the food is good, the conditions are wonderful, and so it's a nice place to be.
What did you find most challenging about your job at the Navajo Nation?
Well, I guess I would be very bold, and I would tell them to practice their reading, practice their running, practice their athletic endeavors, practice their music, get their guitars out, get their banjos out, get their drums out, and practice, because I was telling them they needed 10,000 hours of practice to be able to be on the stage. So they would do that. They're, as I say on the laptops, they had a contract, and they signed this contract. And the contract said that they would do what they were told. They would be, their dress code would be up to snuff. They would be earning good grades. They were there to learn. And I was there momentarily, I would say, because, I told them that if this doesn't work out, I'm headed back to Missouri. I'm just here for a short time.
And you ended up staying 20 years.
20 years.
So you're telling me back in the 1990s, these children had laptops?
Absolutely.
That is absolutely amazing.
Well, and they knew how to use them, too. So I remember going down to Phoenix one day with a friend who also worked on the reservation. And she said, Dee, let's go get a cell phone. And I said, a what? Because I didn't have one. But we signed this contract. You had to sign a contract for something or other. And we got our cell phones. And then, of course, we couldn't live without them.
Yes.
So we've still got them. Yeah.
What was the most rewarding part of your time there at the Navajo Nation?
The most rewarding part was how once they learn to trust you, they really want you there, and you feel so welcome, and you're invited into their homes, and they love to cook for you. The Navajo taco is a welcoming food for them. And I was invited to their powwows, their baptisms, their weddings, their funerals, and I tried my very best to be available.
So you were really part of this community.
I became a part of the community. They were not no distance between me and the Navajo. We were all one together.
So what one thing, if you can pick one thing, What struck you most about the community that you served?
Well, I love the community. I still love the community. And I get very homesick. And every year at about this time, I get a phone call asking me if I will return to the reservation and work with them. And I think about it, and then I look at Dee Woodward and decide that my place is here with him. And so I tell them that I appreciate the offer, but I better stay here. And I will say that they are in good hands, and I'll tell you why. They do have a few health issues, but they have doctors who have been to medical school from all over the world, and those doctors can work off their debts on the Navajo Nation.
With what they get paid from the Navajo Nation. They can
Right.
pay off their student loans?
Right.
Oh.
And so we have doctors coming out the wazoo. Lots of doctors go there because it is a good place to be. And their children are advanced. The children of the doctors are advanced, as you would expect them to be. So I was always telling those children to become the leaders and to work with the Native children and help them develop their potential, because their potential is extraordinary. And their personalities are wonderful. It's fun to be with them. Now, you probably know me well enough to know that in the fall, we would go to the local fair, something like the Missouri State Fair here in Sedalia. And so I would tell them, okay, guys, I'm leaving at 3 o'clock. You have to be on the bus. If you're not, I'm leaving without you. And do you think they would be on the bus? Every single one of them would be on the bus ready to go. All they need is someone to tell them what to do and when to do it and how to do it, and they can do it. So they're lacking a little bit in ingenuity, initiative of their own.
They need a place to start, and
Exactly.
then they take off.
That's what I.
I know a lot of people who are not Native American who need that.
Exactly. And I did want to mention that they do have these clinics everywhere. There's a clinic of some kind, and sometimes the records are not kept so well. And sometimes you want to go in there and straighten things out for them and be sure. They do take some supervision once in a while, to make sure all their records, because they are not record-keeping people as we are.
They're more verbal, what do you say, spoken word.
Oral
historians rather than
Right.
Character, typing and filing things on paper. They have more of a vocal tradition.
That's right, yes.
Is there anything else that struck you that you want to share about working in the Navajo Nation?
Well, as in this handout, I have a page on superstitions. They are very superstitious. And so one day, over the loudspeakers, we heard the command, prepare the children to board the buses in 5 minutes. We asked the children to ready themselves for going home and proceeded to the waiting buses. No explanation was given as to why such a command was to be obeyed. We complied and later learned that one of the custodians at the high school had seen a tiny snake. Snakes are a sign of bad fortune, and so a perfectly fine learning environment was interrupted, and all children and employees were sent home. Another example of superstition is the work of the many medicine men and women. No matter the problem, a medicine man is called to bless the situation. If there's been a fire anywhere, the medicine man can bless it and all harm will go away. Sometimes, if a person has died in a housing unit, this unit is to be cleaned but not used again in the foreseeable future, particularly by a Navajo. Do not walk under ladders. Do not allow a black cat to cross your path. Do not allow an owl on your property. So, the
Wow.
superstitions, they really do subscribe to those.
I wonder, the last two, well, the almost last two, that the black cat and the ladder, we have that in our,
Yes, we do.
Anglo-Saxon culture.
We do.
I wonder if we got it from the Navajo.
Probably.
I wonder if that's where it came from. That's fascinating.
Probably.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us today, Dr. Woodward. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for asking me. It's a pleasure to share, and I'm so glad this month is Native American Month, and I just do encourage everyone to go visit the Navajo Nation. Stay as long as you can. Remember, there are very expensive, very luxurious hotels on the Navajo Nation. There are many restaurants of every kind. Every store is on the reservation, and things are very expensive. So take money.
Take money with you.
You will need it.
If you would like to find out more about the Navajo people, you can log on to their official website, which is www.navajo with a J. That's how they spell it, not with an H. NAVAJO -nsn.gov, or just log on to our station's Facebook site at KPIP LP Fayette. I'm Rachel Steele for Local Voices, only on 94.7 KPIP.